there's no better education than getting out and seeing the world.
The experiences are what you're going to remember in the long run.
Getting out to see the world has just really opened my eyes to a lot of things.
I know a little bit about a lot of random things, and that's because of travel.
We're going to be able to learn so much about some really great destinations.
I'm excited about how this will improve our group itineraries.
I'm really looking forward to having great conversations about places. Welcome to Destination Dispatch.
Hello, I'm Jim Delleman with Group Travel Odyssey. Thank you for joining us for this incredible episode of Destination Dispatch. Before we begin learning everything that there is to learn about Fredericksburg, Virginia, I do want to ask a favor. Please, if you are watching us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click that little subscribe button below. Also, if you ring the bell, we'll notify you anytime that we have new content on our YouTube channel. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn, Group Travel Odyssey, and like the Group Travel Odyssey Facebook page as well. We want to see you on all of our social media channels. We've got a lot of great information. Also on our YouTube channel, it's a great archive for previous episodes of Destination Dispatch, and this one will live on there as well. So make sure to hit us up on our social media channels. Today, as I said, we're going to be learning about the amazing Fredericksburg, Virginia. A lot of history, a lot of things to do, really wonderful location. But instead of me talking about it, let's bring on a whole bunch of people here. First of all, our co-hosts today, we have our lead navigator from Group Travel Odyssey, Keith Snowd. Hey Keith,
hey.
How's it going?
It is going great.
Wonderful.
And how's it going for you today?
It's going. I'm all packed up and ready for our big trip. Keith and I are going to be heading to Student Youth Travel Association. The CITA conference is starting tomorrow in Washington, D.C. So we will be there. So we hope to see a lot of you there as well. It's the first time the CITA conference has been live since 2019. So we're excited.
Well, you're definitely at least one step ahead of me because mine's not packed yet. So
This is a record for me, though, to be packed this early. I mean, usually it's like I'm throwing things in a suitcase tomorrow morning before I have to head out of the place. So,
well, since my flight's this evening, that's what I'll be doing. So,
fun time. Fun time. Well, let's also bring on our other host today. He is the host of Destinations Beyond Expectations podcast, Stevie G. Stevie.
What's up, guys? Great to see you as always.
Good seeing you. Good seeing you. How are things going?
Pretty good. I'm not packed for anything because I'm just gonna have a nice, relaxing weekend. So everything's good here in sunny Orlando, Florida. You guys ready for the conference?
Yeah, we are ready, but don't jinx it by saying you're just gonna have a nice, quiet, relaxing weekend. You know,
that's right. That's a recipe for disaster, right there.
Yes, we are ready.
We'll see what happens this weekend.
We're ready. We're looking forward to meeting with a bunch of people and getting together with people that we haven't seen for a few years. So it is exciting to do that as well. But we're having some decent weather up here, so I think we're all kind of like in that same area of temperature zone right now. So we're kind of enjoying things. One of the things I was saying that is interesting, this is one of the first ones where we've not had a threat of tropical storms or tropical depressions anywhere that could delay people's arrivals.
Why did you say that out loud? Why?
Well, it's not going to happen that quickly. I mean, they're going to get there. Maybe
again. Why are you still speaking? Like I keep calling 2022 the year of that'll never happen. So don't tempt fate here, please.
Whoops. Okay, I'll be quiet. Well, gentlemen, have you been to Fredericksburg?
Yes.
Keith has?
No, for me. Have you, Jim?
I have, but I haven't been there in decades, shall we say? So
yes. Well, mine probably is in the decade column. Yes.
That's scary when that happens. But, I'm looking forward to getting a refresher on everything Fredericksburg. It's such a wonderful historic place, and there's so much going on. And it's a great location where it is located in Virginia. But instead of all of us talking about it, let's bring on our experts from Visit Fredericksburg. Let's bring on Haley Backlund and Victoria Matthews. Hello.
Hi.
It's great to have you. We were just saying Stevie's never been. Keith and I have been, but I like I said, I have to admit it's been decades since I've been there. But I've got family that's in the Virginia area, and we used to go visit around there on a regular basis. So it's a beautiful area. I want to ask, just to get started, and for people who don't know, why don't you let us know exactly where in Virginia Fredericksburg is?
Sure. So Fredericksburg is located right off of I-95, about midway between Washington, D.C. and Richmond, Virginia. So like you said, it's a very easily accessible location. I know you say 95, and sometimes that can send shivers down your spine, but it's also accessible by some other more scenic routes. Route 301, Route 17 South are also some major highways that'll get you to us.
That's fantastic.
I was just on 301 and passed by Fredericksburg on Saturday.
There you go.
And honestly, yeah, I know people kind of cringe when they hear I-95, but it's convenient. If you're off of I-95, it is a convenient stop for so many people that are traveling that corridor in that area. So that's really wonderful. What would you say is it that makes Fredericksburg so great for groups?
Fredericksburg has a little bit of everything. And I know that sounds cliched to say, but we really do. We're located right on the Rappahannock River. We love outdoors here. We have lots of history, a large concentration of historical sites in a relatively small footprint. We have sites that span colonial history all the way to World War II, really. We have a nationally renowned performing arts center just to the north of the city, the Riverside Center for Performing Arts. They bring in Broadway shows, which are great. They're currently showing Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, based on the famous Sidney Poitier film. They'll be showing Ghost after that. Who doesn't love a Patrick Swayze nod? We are also home to the oldest distillery in Virginia. A. Smith Bowman Distillery is located in this area. They do wonderful tours, which are free, and include a tasting, which is kind of unusual in that market. So we have some really great things, almost something for everyone. A very vibrant downtown. We have a 40-block historic downtown area. Almost all of the buildings were built in the late 18th, early 19th century, and are still original. They're very walkable, filled with lots of businesses that are independently owned, no chains. So it's a great town that puts its best forward for groups.
That's fantastic.
Fredericksburg is obviously known for history. I mean, there's just a ton of history there. Obviously we're going to go through an itinerary later, but if you were to name something in Fredericksburg, whether it's history, whether it's, shopping, what's the one thing that you think groups often overlook and should be doing more of in Fredericksburg?
The answer to this is probably a little counterintuitive. You would think, I would say like tour this, tour that. But what we find is groups that come to us really like having some free time to sort of be left to their own devices to explore a little on their own, particularly in our historic downtown area. There are so many unique shops and cafes and restaurants and coffee shops that, while not necessarily big enough to accommodate a group, can accommodate individuals, and giving guests that free time to kind of explore and find those hidden gems are really something our groups really, really enjoy. I'd also say one of the, I think, historical points that may be overlooked is we are actually the boyhood home of George Washington. I think when you think of George Washington, you automatically think Mount Vernon, but George Washington actually spent a substantial portion of his life here in Fredericksburg. His childhood home, Ferry Farm, is just across the river from the city. So when guests find that out, they're very intrigued to learn more about Washington and his formative years.
Yeah, and his mother's house is there too, correct?
Correct. The Mary Washington House is also here, located in the city. She lived there for the last 17 years of her life. Her son actually purchased the home for her.
Wow.
So she had a more comfortable residence inside the city, not out by herself, where Ferry Farm is at that time would have been, kind of the frontier when she would have been out there alone. So he wanted her to be closer to people, and his sister's home was just down the way as well. Historic Kenmore was his sister's plantation. So.
Fantastic.
So we know George slept.
Yes.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Really quick, one thing I wanted to ask you about, because you brought up that the oldest distillery is in Fredericksburg. And if I did my research right, I believe there's some wineries in the area. And I read a blog on your website about, how to celebrate Craft Beer Month in Fredericksburg. Talk to me a little bit about, whether it's breweries or wineries or distilleries. Just can you talk a little bit more about that? If a group wants to kind of do one of those, how can they experience it?
Sure. We love our craft beer in Fredericksburg. We have quite a few breweries, that have just opened, just down the way from our office. Waters End Brewery just opened. Strange Ways is a great one for groups. It's lots of open space, large tasting room. So there are many different options when it comes to breweries. We also have a cidery in town now, Wild Hair Cider. They're a little bit small for, I would say, a larger size group, but I think a mid-level group would work there. And we have a provider of wine tours. Trolley Tours of Fredericksburg will do wine tours out to some of the wineries in the area. So we have lots to choose from that too.
And we also have a meadery now. Haley's Honey Meadery is fairly new. That's also available, and they will take smaller groups, so we can figure out how to make that work for the group tour client.
That's fantastic. So tell me, what is it with Otters in Fredericksburg?
Otters. So an otter is an indication of river health. And of course, we are a river community. There have been sightings of actual live river otters in the Rappahannock River. So to sort of educate the public about taking care of the river and how that affects the overall, ecological environment, the Main Street organization here in town, in partnership with the city and some other organizations, put together the Otterly Amazing Scavenger Hunt. So throughout town, there are several bronze otter statues that you can hunt and find. And if you find them, you bring it back to the visitor center and get prizes. So it's a really cute little program. Kids love it. And I mean, who doesn't like an otter?
Exactly. It's interesting because, that's one of the things I was looking not only on the information you have, but the people who have their own videos out that they've come to visit Fredericksburg, they're all talking about the otters, the bronze otters. And that's really fantastic. I love that.
What a very unique way to promote. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
go ahead.
Do you have, I'd love to learn a little bit more about like festivals and special events, things like that you think that groups would really enjoy, because I'm sure that there's a lot going on in Fredericksburg that people can partake in.
Sure. So every April, we participate in Historic Garden Week in Virginia. So it's a statewide event, but every April, Historic Garden Week takes place. Fredericksburg is usually the fourth Tuesday in April. So private homeowners open their homes for tours, and sometimes interior tours in addition to garden tours. So that's a great way to experience some of the historic sites that you don't necessarily get to see on a daily basis. In May of each year, we have the Marine Corps Historic Half Marathon. So if you are a runner, and there are other races other than the half marathon as well. But if you are a runner, that's a great race that goes all throughout the city and the historic downtown area. So definitely come out for that. Around the holidays, the Historic Fredericksburg Foundation puts on candlelight home tours. Similar to Garden Week, private home owners open up their historic homes decked out for the holidays to talk about historical Christmas traditions and things of that nature. So we do some really unique historical and outdoor special events through the year.
That's fantastic. It's great because it seems like, it is a year-round place for people to visit. It's not just, a seasonal location, which is wonderful. For groups that do want to come in, what can you give us? What kind of information can you give us about accommodations in the surrounding areas?
Sure. So, we have all of the usual hotel suspects. There's a Hampton Inn, Hyatt, Clarion, Hilton Garden Inn, etc. Our office is actually, one of the best resources for that. If you're looking to plan a tour here, contact our office. We can assist with lodging recommendations, reservations at attractions. We are in a downtown area, so parking of a bus can be tricky, and we will help with that. We'll put you in contact with restaurants that are can accommodate larger groups. We're your one-stop shop for Fredericksburg Visitor Center information.
Excellent. Thank you.
Is there a good, obviously we know peak season, everybody loves to travel during peak season, including groups. But oftentimes group planners are looking for opportunities to travel in maybe a shoulder season or something like that is optimal for the destination. And oftentimes it gives groups a little more leeway because it's not as busy and things like that. And groups get to experience a little more. Is there a time of the year that you would recommend that groups consider if they have the flexibility and when they can travel?
I would say very, very end of March, early April. And I would say end of October into November. During the summer, we get a lot of transient traffic just by being on I-95. We also get a lot of snowbird traffic that comes from the north and heading down to Florida. So we get a lot of those folks. May is a very busy time of year in the city. There are a lot of events going on. We do have the University of Mary Washington here, so we're dealing with university graduations and things like that. And then September and October are busy times for our convention clients. So the rates tend to be a little bit higher in those months. So again, end of March, early April, and late October into early November.
Great. Fantastic.
Those are great travel times too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Can you guys maybe touch a little bit on outdoor activities in your area? What are some things that, maybe it's hiking, kayaking, biking? What can people do in the Fredericksburg area in terms of outdoor activities?
Sure. Well, I think we've mentioned it a few times now. We are a river community. We're right on the Rappahannock River. There are several organizations that provide activities related to the river. The Friends of the Rappahannock are an education organization that works to promote the health of the river. They have educational programs and team building type activities related to the river. Virginia Outdoor Center does rental kayaking, tubing rentals. The city also has a great park and trail system. So, it ranges from, more moderate trails to paved trails that are great for strollers and little kids. We just opened a new park relatively recently, Riverfront Park, which is right overlooking the river. It has a splash pad for kids. It has a ninja course for kids. I have little kids, so it's a favorite of theirs. So we love the outdoors here. There's lots of different ways to interact with the river and outdoors in Fredericksburg.
That's really great. And what can you say? Walkability for groups that are visiting, especially the downtown area too. What is the walkability of Fredericksburg?
We're a very walkable town. The footprint is relatively small. So we're, most of the major attractions in historic areas are within this 40 block radius. So it's all, paved streets, relatively level streets. It's a very walking friendly city.
Very wide sidewalks as well, and they're all brick lined. So they've done a really good job in making sure that downtown district looks really good, all the way down to the trash cans are pretty. So, but it's very we park people adjacent to our visitor center, so they're right there next to our restrooms. And then from our visitor center, that is on Caroline Street, and that is the main thoroughfare through Fredericksburg for the shopping and the restaurants and things. And so from there, they can just walk forward and explore.
Great.
I have to say I'm a little jealous. When I was a kid, I didn't have a ninja course.
It's come play here. Yeah. There's no age limit.
I love it. Oh man. You guys also do First Fridays. Is that year round, or is that seasonal that you're doing First Fridays?
So that event varies. I think we're now post-COVID, so that's does happen most First Fridays throughout the year, where things are kept open later, art galleries are open, and then during some set times a year, we will run a trolley as well. In addition to that, there is a new program that they just put out there called Sip and Stroll, and so that's also tied into that as well. And that allows you to buy an alcoholic beverage of your choice, and actually allows you to walk the streets of Fredericksburg drinking said beverage, and it's legal to do that. So that's something that if a group were interested in that, we could help them navigate through that process.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. See, Stevie, there you go.
I'm in, sold.
Well,
and then the ninja course afterwards.
Oh yeah, there's a good combo. There's so much that we've heard already, and we want to hear even more. But before we do so, let's hear a little bit from some of our partners.
Group Travel Odyssey would like to take a moment to thank our amazing partners, including Book My Group, Travel Advocates, We Travel, Broadway Inbound, and Fly My Group. These partnerships help make business without boundaries possible, and we encourage our viewers to learn more about these wonderful companies. Now, back to Destination Dispatch.
Okay, so we've already been talking about all of the fantastic things that there are to do and see in Fredericksburg, but let's do something a little bit different. Keith, I'm going to turn it over to you, and why don't we go through a sample itinerary of what groups can expect if they're coming in to Fredericksburg.
Fantastic. And I want to remind all of our GTO users that you can find these by hitting the trip templates button on the dashboard of your sales manager app. You search Fredericksburg, Virginia, and you'll get this. This will be right there available for you, including the ability to just use the, we've entered all of these things into GTO, so you'll be able to use this itinerary in its form, copy it right into your trip and start right from there. So it makes it super simple. But I wanted to show this first page because I love great imagery, and this is great imagery. It's awesome. So we want to tell us a little bit about this image, Haley?
Sure. So that is a monument that is at the Fredericksburg battlefield site to Richard Kirkland. He's known as the Angel of Marie's Heights. So during the battle, he took water to wounded soldiers of both sides, and he is known for his compassion, and the soldiers stopped firing upon him so he could carry water to all the injured soldiers that he could help at that time. So that is a monument honoring his bravery and compassion.
It's a beautiful sculpture.
Yeah.
That sculpture is the same person who did Iwo Jima.
Oh, wow.
It's made by the same artist.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, I'm just going to let you talk through. Wow, I went a little too fast there. I'm just going to let you talk through this itinerary and tell us a little bit about your flow here of a nice trip to Fredericksburg.
Sure. So I just want to stress this is just an example. We are always open to custom itineraries. So if you have an idea and we don't have one pre-done, please contact us. We'll help you. But in this particular example, we are located in an area where there's a lot of military establishments and history. So this is focusing primarily on military-related sites throughout this trip. So on day one, we have you arriving in Fredericksburg in the afternoon at approximately 2:30. And we have you being met by one of our wonderful step-on guides. So there are several step-on guide services in town for this particular example, we used John Gaston, who is a wonderful person. He is a former trolley tours of Fredericksburg driver. He is a part-time travel counselor, so he knows his stuff when it comes to Fredericksburg. So in this particular example, you would be met by John and basically just take a leisurely drive through the city to get a layout of what the city looks like, drive past some of the museums you would later see, some of the monuments on Washington Avenue, etc. Just kind of get a feel for the city. We have you moving on to your hotel, rest for a little bit before heading to dinner at Six Bears and a Goat Brewing Company. So they are just a few miles north of the city. Six Bears and a Goat was founded by several former military members themselves, the Bears being the Coast Guard, Goat the Navy. So 6 former Coast Guard members, 1 Navy, 6 Bears and a Goat. They make some great adult beverages. The May West Blonde Ale is a particularly good one in my opinion. They also have a great menu of food selections there at their site. So that would kind of conclude the first day there, because we would assume you would only have about a half day on your first day.
Great.
All right, so moving on to day 2, after breakfast of some sort, either on your own or at your hotel, we have you taking a tour of George Washington's boyhood home at Ferry Farm. So we touched on Ferry Farm a little bit earlier. This was where George spent his childhood years. He lived there from age 6 until young adulthood. Ferry Farm is a really interesting site because I come from a museum background, so it's a great way to see the science of history, if that makes sense. Ferry Farm was essentially just an archaeological site initially. There was no, the home was a wood frame home, so just through years, it went away. But archaeologists actually located, the site of the home, learned how it was constructed, and reconstructed the home as it would have been in that time using appropriate construction methods and everything. So it is as accurate as it could have been to the best of our knowledge. And because it's a reconstruction, you can interact with all of the objects and lay on the beds if you want to, pick up the cups. It's great. It's great for kids too. They like that.
Yeah, it's not often that students get to go to a site and then actually touch things and interact that way. That's
exactly. So from there, at approximately 10:30 or so, we have you moving on to the James Monroe Museum, which is here in downtown Fredericksburg. James Monroe was an officer in the Continental Army. That's a little known fact about him. So his law office was here in Fredericksburg, and that museum is near where we believe his law office was. They're essentially the presidential library for James Monroe. They have some great artifacts. They have the desk where he wrote the Monroe Doctrine, and some other wonderful Monroe artifacts.
Wow.
See, from there, we have you taking a little break and having some lunch at the Robin's Nest Cafe. So this is located on the site of the next museum you would be going to, the Shannon Air Museum. So the Robin Nest Cafe is a 50s inspired cafe. So it looks, kind of like a 50s diner, lots of, shiny checkered patterns. And it's all aviation themed, of course, because Shannon Air is a aviation museum.
And Haley, what size group can they take? Like, what's the largest size group that Robin's Nest could take?
They could probably do a full motor coach. We just need to give them lots of heads up to do that. But right. I think they can get 55 people in that restaurant.
Okay.
The other option is that we can perhaps talk to them about doing something outside, because there are a couple airplanes that are on the tarmac outside, and then move into the museum.
Okay. Yeah, I know that for some of our operators, finding places for groups that are larger than one coach is becoming problematic post-COVID. So that's why I asked the question. That's great that they have the option to do something outside. That's fantastic.
All right.
you get to enjoy lunch and then do one of my favorite things, which is visit an air museum. So
yes. So after lunch, we have you having a guided tour of the Shannon Air Museum. It's a great museum. They have several World War I, World War II era aircraft. They have the only surviving V1AD. Now, I'm not an aviation person, so I do know, though, that it is a 1930s single engine airliner that was built by the Airplane Development Corporation. It's the only surviving one, so that's a really cool thing when you have the only of something.
Yes.
And they're great. They're volunteers. They're wonderful and give wonderful tours. One of our marketing assistants in the office was actually able to take a flight in one of their airplanes, which was really cool. They do flights for smaller groups, which is a really neat thing. Wow. So following the Air Museum, we do have you going to a Smith-Bowman distillery, which we touched on earlier. They are the oldest distillery in Virginia. They provide complimentary guided tours, which do include a tasting at the end. The tasting, kind of varies depending on what they have at the time, but it's, usually one of their bourbons, a gin, possibly a rum. And then, of course, they have all of their products there for purchase. It's really great. They go into great detail about the actual process and some of the historical components of how that would have been done when they were founded in the 1930s. So it's a wonderful tour. Their products are award winning. So if you're a bourbon person, that's definitely something I think you would enjoy.
Fantastic.
That's speaking to my love right there. So.
All right.
So then we back to the hotel, huh?
Yeah. So after all that, you might need a little break, take a little rest and refresh break before dinner.
Depending on how many samples you have at the distillery.
Yeah. Maybe a quick nap, So after whatever form of rest you may need, we have you heading to dinner at Ristorante Renato. And they are an Italian restaurant here in downtown Fredericksburg. They've been in business for over 30 years. They offer some great Italian dishes. And I mean, who doesn't love some nice Italian food to finish off the night, some great comfort food.
Absolutely.
And a special flaming dessert. Now,
yes.
Anything that you can have that's on fire. I mean,
there you go. Yep. Don't pass up on that. That's for sure.
And day 3, I think we're going to get to see some great stuff here too. So
yes.
Please talk to us about day 3.
So day 3 is battlefield focused. So Fredericksburg is the site of several Civil War battlefields. In fact, 4 different battles took place within a roughly 18-mile radius of Fredericksburg. The first of which is the Battle of Fredericksburg. So we would once again have you meet back up with your step-on guide. Again, in this instance, it would be John Gaston. He would provide you with a guided tour of the battlefield. You would see the sunken road where basically the 2 lines met, and it was some of the bloodiest portion of the battle. You would hear the story about Richard Kirkland, which we just discussed, the Angel and Marie's Heights and his heroic efforts there. You would see the Ennis House, which was there during the time and still shows the bullet holes and basically all of the fire that it took during the battle. So that's a really, really powerful thing to see when you see how many bullet holes are in that small building.
It's battlefield tours are so interesting, and I think it's really amazing when a group gets to go out on the battlefield and have somebody explain what they're seeing, because a lot of times people do them on their own, and I don't ever recommend doing a battlefield tour like doing a self-guided tour. I think that there's so much more meaningful with somebody who can really talk about the landscape and what they're seeing, because it often is difficult to figure out on your own. And so I think having that knowledgeable person there for a battlefield tour is always makes the experience so much more meaningful. So, And then we move on to lunch, and I love tours that focus on a lot of eating, so you're really doing well here.
We do love our food. We have some pretty great restaurants and great food scenes, and we do love our food here. We play hard, and then you have to fuel up after.
Yeah. So, and you're speaking to our language here. You started off with bourbon, and now we're in an ale house. Then we're going to go to a vineyard. I mean,
I told you we like our spirits. All right. So we have you going to lunch at Harry's Ale House, which is basically in between the Fredericksburg battlefield and Chancellorsville battlefield, where you would be headed next. So Harry's Ale House is great American pub fare with a seasonal variety of craft beers on tap. I just learned recently, Harry is actually not the name of the founder. It is the name of the founder's dog. So you will see when you go inside lots of dog pictures and marketing. In fact, you can bring in a picture of your own dog and they'll display it. So it's very dog focused. It's really cute. I just learned that the other day, that Harry is the name of the founder's dog. So from there, you would go a little bit west of the city to the Chancellorsville battlefield. Now this is the battle where Stonewall Jackson was mortally wounded, unfortunately by his own men. So you would hear about that. Again, you would be with your step-on guide, who would provide a guided tour of this site. Then
vineyard and brewery for dinner. I mean, for a visit and another tasting, I'm sure.
Yes. So they are conveniently located pretty much right next to the battlefield, Wilderness Run Vineyards and 1781 Brewing. So the great thing about this site is it's wine and beer. We haven't hit a winery yet on this trip. So if beer isn't your thing, then you have the wine option here as well. They are a farm brewery, so it is very much, you get to experience farm life. There are chickens running around. There are donkeys you can see. So they definitely embrace the farm brewery life. I have been there myself and had a rooster come right next to me and just come by and say hi. They're very friendly chickens.
I love it.
Then after that, we'll have you return to your hotel for another quick rest or nap or whatever you may need to recharge after such a full day.
So that you can enjoy in the evening that 40 block area downtown.
Exactly. So This would be one of those examples where we would let you loose downtown. Our office can provide visitor packets, which include dining guides. So you have a little direction, but this would be on your own. You pick wherever you want. There are great options for dinner. You just want a quick sandwich or somewhere really nice to sit down. We've got that. Alternatively, if you wanted something a little more structured, this would be a good opportunity to work in Riverside Center for the Performing Arts. So if you are wanting to include something a little more arts focused, you could book a group performance there, and they are a dinner theater, so dinner would be included with that performance.
Perfect.
Fantastic. And then day 4 is a really great end to the tour, and you're going to head to another battlefield, but then a museum that I actually love this museum. So tell us about day 4.
Sure. So day 4, your first stop would be the Spotsylvania Courthouse battlefield, again with your step-on guide, to explore that battle. This was sort of the beginning of getting to Appomattox. So it's where things really start to get tough, and Grant is basically chasing Lee down to where it ultimately ends later in the war. After that battle, you are then going to head on up north to lunch at the Globe and Laurel Tavern, which is a military law enforcement themed tavern. So they have great pub fare, and it's all military themed. And then your last stop, we've kind of given you a choice, but if you have time, you could definitely do both. We have you choosing either the National Museum of the Marine Corps, which is at Quantico, or the National Museum of the Army, which is at Fort Belvoir. Again, they're relatively close.
Two great options.
Time, yeah, you could do both, but if you only have time for one, that choice is there. They're both wonderful museums. Great interactive exhibits. Another like alternative lunch option, if you wanted to do lunch at the museum, they both have food service, so that is something you could do as well if you prefer to have lunch at the museum or box lunches from the museums. Both of them have those options.
And I'm pretty sure the National Museum, the Marine Corps, I don't know about the Army. If you have a decent sized group, they'll do an evening where they'll open up the museum for you and you can do dinner. They used to, at least, at the National Museum of the Marine Corps. So, if you're trying to work some itinerary magic there, that's another option to consider if they still do that. I'm not quite sure whether that's still an option there or not. It used to be.
Yeah, we would look into that and check and see if there are any post-COVID changes to stuff like that.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it seems like everything's changed post-COVID. So yeah. So and then I have to end with my favorite thing, which we were talking about. Where is Fredericksburg? And we have a map. And it's you can see right there is Richmond, and you're right just north of Richmond. So thank you for including a map. Made my day. You're really happy. So but thank you for sharing this with us. And obviously we have this saved in GTO under your information in Supplier Manager. Obviously, when you look for the template itineraries, it has Haley's information there so that you can get a hold of Haley. And I just appreciate you going through the itinerary. It's great. I want to go do it right now. And I should have stopped on Saturday and started, and I didn't. See, that I should have done this last week. So, so anyway, but thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to Jim.
And if our viewers want more information about Fredericksburg, how can they reach out to you guys?
Our website is a great resource, fxbg.com. So definitely check out our website. We're also on all of the socials. Visit FXBG, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all of the socials. You can find us. And then, of course, you can always email. My email, I think you guys have, is right there. So any group-related questions or needs, shoot me an email.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you both so much for joining us and for giving us so much great information about Fredericksburg. And I promise I will get back, and it's not going to be decades before I do so again. So, I mean, we have to visit the oldest distillery in Virginia.
Absolutely. Yep.
We'll bring Stevie up for that one too. So
there you go.
Wait.
Haley, Victoria, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
And don't forget, we do Destination Dispatch on Thursdays at 2:00. So if you want to tune in on Thursdays, you will be seeing us, as well as Destination Dispatch. We also have a program called GTO Coach and Go. GTO Coach and Go is a informative, informational session that we do for our members. For those of you who are GTO users, we give you information about new features, about updated features, about tweaks that we've done to the system. We take you through some of the processes that we're working on. That is on Tuesdays at 2:00. But if you miss either one of these are all located on our YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you will be able to have access to the archives of all of our GTO Coach and Goes and all of our Destination Dispatches, plus some other fun videos that we have up there. So make sure to join those. Keith, if they want more information in general about Group Travel Odyssey, what can they do?
Well, they can reach out to you. They can reach out to me. They can reach out to Stevie, and we'd be happy to help them. But you can also go to grouptravelodyssey.com and learn all about us there and the different packages that are available, how you can become part of our community. I encourage you to check out our YouTube channel. There's lots of great videos, history of the Coach and Go and of Destination Dispatch, which you can learn a lot about what we do and what GTO has to offer. So please check us out, and we'd love to give you a demo.
Fantastic. And Stevie G, how can we find out more about Destinations Beyond Expectations?
Sure. You can go to dbetravel.com to find out more about the podcast. DBE Destinations Beyond Expectations is the podcast designed for students of travel. New episodes every Friday. It's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. Really anywhere you can find podcasts. This week, we're actually doing the second part of a 2-part episode where we talk about Dublin and day trips that you can do around Dublin, Ireland. It was a destination that I got to visit right before the pandemic. So if it's something you're interested in, be sure to listen to that episode.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And gentlemen, as always, it's great to spend Thursdays with you and learn more about some fantastic places that our groups can go to visit. Keith, I will see you tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely.
Stevie, I hope to see you soon. We'll go have bourbon somewhere, I promise.
Have a great time in DC, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you for watching this episode of Destination Dispatch. We invite you to stay connected with Group Travel Odyssey on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and be sure to check out more of our media, including GTO Coach and Go and the Destinations Beyond Expectations podcast. Please visit our website, grouptravelodyssey.com, where you can learn more about GTO and request a demo. Group Travel Odyssey, business without boundaries.